this. Let me put so for all of the folks here joining here tonight, welcome to our webinar this evening, Masters of Education, Learning Design and Technology. And tonight's program is very much focused on the student panel. My name is Eliel Acosta. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions, and I probably, hopefully, maybe not have met many of you through individual appointments. But if not, I hope to get the opportunity to do so at some point if you decide to apply. But I don't want to take too much of our time here. I really do want to jump straight into the student panel. But before I do that, just to kind of give everyone some context of Johns Hopkins University, there are 9 divisions, 1 university, right? So Applied Physics Laboratory, Bloomberg School of Public Health, Perry Business School, Krieger School of Arts and Sciences, the Peabody Institute, in the School of Advanced International Studies, School of Education, which is us, School of Medicine, School of Nursing, and then the Whiting School of Engineering. So there are 9 divisions, like I said, 1 university. We are America's first research university. More than 24,000 undergrad and graduate students are enrolled in our 9 schools. For 36 years, we've put more money into research than any other U.S. academic institution. And the university reaches into nearly every corner of the globe, conducting research, training, and related activities in more than 150 countries. If you wanted to kind of get a quick glance of the School of Education, we across our 10 master degree programs, 2 doctoral programs, and 2 certificate programs, we have geographical representation of 42 states, including DC and Puerto Rico, and then also 58 countries. The number that I really always love to see from this slide is we are 32% first generation, which is always good, and then 30% international based. From our portfolio, from our academic-based programs, you'll see that some are online, some are on campus, some are kind of a mix of both. For tonight's presentation, student panel, the LDT, Learning Design and Technology program, it is online, which we'll cover here in a bit. But 55% are online and 45% are campus-based. Again, we're one of 9 schools, total enrollment approximately around 1,164, growing alumni network of 27,000, and we're frequently ranked in the top 20 best education schools by U.S. News and World and Report. I'm going to go ahead and transition it and allow Dr. Diamond here to talk about the program kind of briefly and introduce himself as well, and then we'll jump into the student panel.
Thanks, Eliel. Hi, everyone. It's good to be here with you. My name is Professor Jim Diamond. I am the Program Director for the Learning Design and Technology program here in the Johns Hopkins School of Education. I've been here as a member of the faculty for 8 years, previously as a Program Director for the Digital Age Learning and Educational Technology program, which has since been retired and relaunched as our brand new Learning Design and Technology program, getting ready to head into our 2nd year. So those of you who may be joining us in fall of this year will be joining our 2nd cohort, and you have the great good fortune to spend some time this evening with members of our 1st cohort and learn from them. I'll tell you a tiny little bit about myself, but then we'll get on to the star attraction. So I've been in the digital media learning space for about 20 years. My PhD is specifically in the area of educational communication and technology, which broadly understood is instructional systems design and learning sciences. So much of my career, most of my career, has been working with practitioners, typically in the K-12 space, to help them design or think about using technologies and tools in their specific content areas. For a long time, my scholarship focused on game-based learning and gamification. I still am in that space, but like many others in this field now, I have been surprisingly drawn toward AI in education, and I say surprisingly tongue in cheek. So that's about me. Why don't we move on a little bit, and maybe I'll say a minute more about the program, and then I really do want us to get to this panel. So LDT is a online asynchronous program, which means all of your courses are taken via the Canvas Learning Management System. It is an asynchronous program, which means that you are proceeding through the program on your own time in some ways, right? So 95% of our students right now are working professionals. And that's part of the reason I'm excited to have this panel here tonight, is because I know they will have a lot to say about what it means to be in a program like this as working professionals. And there's a lot to say about the connections between the learning they're doing here in their own professional lives and their own professional trajectories. This program, but really the field of instructional systems design, learning design and technology, instructional technology, and instructional design, this very broad area, draws people from many, many, many different sectors, many, many different career pathways, many, many different areas of expertise, many, many different areas of studies in their undergraduate careers, in previous master's degree, and in some cases, their doctoral degrees as well, as you will hear a little bit more about this evening. So the last thing I want to say, because you can read this on your own, is that this second year of the program, we are launching with our full menu of specializations. So the existing cohort of students are in our learning experience design specialization, and you'll hear a bit more about that. But we're launching 2 other specializations this fall. The second is AI leadership and education, and the third is learning engineering. Now, as you may know, these admissions webinars will go on over the spring, and there'll be plenty of opportunities for you to join us in future webinars to learn more about each of the specializations. And of course, you can always be in contact with LEL or me. You can always arrange to talk with us individually if you want to learn more about these specializations. But it's important for you to know that those specializations will be there in the fall. But tonight, we're hearing from students in our first specialization who are moving down this path of learning experience design. And I'll leave it at that. And Eliel, I don't think I need to say anything more, right?
Nope, yep, I'm up next. So folks, I'm going to go ahead and just introduce all of our panelists. We have 5 wonderful panelists this evening with us, and I do want to thank them for their time. And as I was preparing today's PowerPoint, I was really, really, really happy to see all this experience that our panelists and our students are bringing. So I'm going to go ahead and start this piece, and then from there, we'll move on to prepared questions based on the registration forms. Um, just to be candid with everyone, right, we did get a lot of questions, so I did my best to kind of funnel them into the top 7 questions, but we should have some time at the very end to take some live Q&A. But I'll go ahead and get started with our first panelist, Charlie Delaney. She is a Baltimore native. Charlie has started out as a marketing, communications, and professional before deciding to make a change and discovered instructional design, where she began building and maintaining online courses, first in Blackboard, to then training and supporting instructors in the Canvas LMS. Currently enrolled in the LDT, Learning Design and Technology program, at the School of Education here at Hopkins. Her goals are to fill the knowledge gaps from not coming from an instructor background to one day become an instructional designer, developing and crafting interactive learning experiences for higher education. And then in her spare time, she does enjoy traveling and gaming with her husband and 2 sons, karaoke, dance, and live music. So that's our first panelist. Our second panelist with us this evening is Liz Woolberg. So Liz Woolberg is a manager of physical therapy services for Kennedy Krieger school programs and senior outpatient physical therapist in KKI's Infant Neurodevelopment Center in Baltimore, Maryland. With over 25 years of experience in pediatric and school-based physical therapy, Liz emphasizes compassion, communication, and collaboration to support children with complex needs. She is passionate about improving the lives of children and their families and embraces innovation, including AI tools, to enhance delivery of IEP services. In addition to her clinical role in the school programs, she's also currently pursuing the Master's of Education in Learning Design and Technology here at Hopkins School of Education. She's enrolled in the program to deepen her expertise in designing inclusive technology, enhance learning experiences that support learners and students with diverse needs. Her goal is to integrate evidence-based instructional design and innovative tools into professional trainings and clinical services and academic environments, ensuring equitable access and engagement for all learners. So as you can see, we have really great students. And our third panelist here is Dr. Phillip. So Dr. Phillip is the Assistant Director, Clinical Operations at Kennedy Krieger Institute Center for Autism Services, Science and Innovation, CASI. She provides direct clinical services and oversees administrative and clinical operations at CASI's Odenton location as the site's clinical director. Prior to joining CASI, Dr. Phillip worked internationally as a head of the special education department at an IB primary school, leading multidisciplinary teams and developing inclusive educational systems. Dr. Phillip earned her PhD in communication disorders from Bowling Green State University in Ohio, specializing in autism spectrum disorders. She is an ASHA certified speech language pathologist practicing in Maryland with clinical and research interest in autism, language, literacy, and social communication, and neurodiverse affirming care. Her interest in the master's program in learning design and technology grew from co-designing an asynchronous online professional development program for Maryland's early childhood educators. She's also led CASI's interdisciplinary team in international coaching efforts to support the development of an autism center abroad. She hopes to use the program to design inclusive learning environments across clinical and research initiatives at CASI. Our next panelist is Kathy Chen. So Kathy Chen is the founder and executive director of Tech Frontier and Fab Lab El Paso, a 501 makerspace and skills incubator advancing access to STEM education and workforce pathways in the Paso del Norte region. She leads partnerships with schools and industry and higher education to deliver hands-on programs in digital fabrication, advanced manufacturing, digital skills, and emerging technologies for youth and adult learners. Kathy is a graduate of Duke University, holds a leadership certification from Harvard Business School, and is pursuing the Master's of Education in Learning Design and Technology here at Hopkins University or School of Ed. And then our final panelist with us this evening is Hannah Cummings. So Hannah began her career as a special education teacher in Lafayette, Georgia, where she spent 6 years developing expertise and supporting diverse learners. After relocating to Maryland with her husband and son, she joined the Legacy School, a school for students with dyslexia. She taught in the lower school for 3 years before stepping into her current role as lower school curriculum designer, where she develops instructional materials to strengthen curriculum and improvement student learning outcomes. She is pursuing her Master's of Education in Learning Design and Technology to refine her curriculum design skills and provide teachers and students with research-based, technology-integrated, high-quality instruction. So those are our panelists. The next slide, just so everyone remembers who is who, I put that together. But at this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over back to Dr. Nyman, who will walk us through the rest of the student panel. Thank you.
Thanks, Ariel. So before I start, again, just a remarkable cross section of people from different sectors, different professional backgrounds, different trajectories, and it is one of the more remarkable things about this field to me that it draws people from so many different areas. And ideally, if we're doing our jobs right, we are finding ways for them to learn together in part by learning about what all of the others do and how they apply these ideas and how they apply these practices in their own work. So this incredible panel gives you a sense of some of the students who we currently have and that we expect to continue seeing. Okay, so my first question, and Eliel, just format wise, am I just going, is everybody answering a question? Do I just go across the screen?
Yeah, I mean, you can have all of our panelists answer the question if it applies to them. Yeah,
Okay,
but definitely feel free to kind of use free form.
great. Well, they definitely all apply. So the first one is about workload and weekly routine, right? So certainly something that you are familiar with is planning your time, planning your very, very busy lives as graduate students around your work, around your home, your families. So what does a typical week look like for you in the program? Class meetings, readings, so on and so forth. Um, what parts of a routine, if you have a routine, do you find most, let's say, useful for you at this point? So why don't we start with Charlie?
Good question, because I am all about routine. So I was all set to answer that one. I'm the type of person that I use a digital notebook. So right now I'm using Microsoft OneNote. And what I like to do is at the beginning of the week, which is typically Monday or Sunday, as soon as the module is live, I like to go through the entire module and jot down. I like to create what I consider a weekly task list because the way my mind works, I need to see what all am I going to do during the week? What are my deliverables? So I go through the entire module and I note everything that is due step by step, every assignment, every reading, everything that is going to be submitted, but also things that I need to do, the readings, the lectures, and I section them out. These are the lectures, these are the readings, these are what to do, and these are the due dates. And I create a specific checklist of it. And then the next thing I do is I break it up. The great thing about asynchronous work is that you can format it any way you want. But for what helps with me is to break up a little bit per day. So I will say these two readings on Monday. On Tuesday, I'm going to do this. On Wednesday, I'm going to knock out these two things. So by the time I get to Friday and Saturday, I find I'm about 80, 90% done. And then by the time I get to the weekends, which is when the due dates are done, I'm in a good place. I'm not normally rushing or stressed, but I find that chunking them out and spacing them day by day. And then for me, I need to check them off to make sure I've hit every step is what helps me get organized. So about 2 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that's what's been working for me.
Thanks, Charlie.
Hmm.
EG?
I just wanted to say that it feels so surreal to be sitting on this side and telling how we're going to do this. And while I'm hearing Charlie say all of these things, I'm connecting it to the theories of learning of how people learn. And she just revealed to you cognitivist theory about how chunking information is. So just trying to tell you, like, you're going to be inspired. You're going to not only learn about these things, but you're also going to be inspired about how you learn. And so while some of you might work in chunking into sections per day, for me, even though I start out with this plan on Sunday or Monday, we have work routines that change even in our professional life. So I have a heavy work week, and then everything is like happening on Monday. I try to make as much as possible like a plan that can digest on each day. But when I've noticed that I have heavy weeks, what I try to do is try to understand how much can I have in my work week where I can dedicate like a whole chunk of time for something that's a heavy assignment, and how much can I do in bits that it doesn't disrupt my understanding of the readings, etc. So we have a great tool called Hypothesis, which is kind of a collaborative annotation tool for readings. And we have maybe 2 or 3 readings in it. So sometimes I might take chunks of that reading, which I feel help me in understanding it, see what my peers are talking about, and that helps me to kind of like take it day by day. So I don't try to finish everything on one day or everything on 2 days. I try to chunk it up, just like Charlie said, but I also adjust it based on my work schedule. I do use a OneNote for more as my note-taking pattern so that, say, suppose whatever Dr. Diamond taught me in week 2, and we're now in week 6, I remember this. Where does it go? So like it helps me to recall information. So that helps me also to connect and finish up my assignments if we're trying to do something that's like a collation of content material. I also use the planner, my Outlook calendar, to kind of like really write it down what I want to do. I also use my own planner, like writing it down as well. So those are the different ways that I use it. So I can't say one method works every work week because many things happen. Life happens. And I'm a mom of two boys as well. So that also happens. So trying to squeeze everything in, but doing it in a manner that's digestible for me.
Amazing. Thank you, BG. Kathy, please.
I love what, has already been said. I think it really highlights how, everyone's custom tailoring to fit their schedule. I think I side a little bit more with Dr. Phillip just because my week to week does look different and it's hard to get to a regular cadence of work, even if the intentions are there to do so. So what I usually do is I also use Microsoft OneNote. So that seems to be a common thread with the three of us so far. I usually, would also have additional folders that I would download any kind of reading. So that's, articles or even the readings from Hypothesis. I usually would download a copy of that as PDF, just because if I am on a different device or on a different on a tablet or a cell phone, I still like to have access to the reading material just because when I'm on the go, it's nice to fill up some of the extra minutes of the little free time that I have, just, doing some readings or looking over some videos. I would say that one thing that has been really helpful is just the multimodal format of a lot of the classes I've taken so far. I'm only on my second semester of the first year of my master's, so just speaking from the little bit of experience that I have in the program, really do appreciate that the content is presented in multiple ways. So, it's covered in, for instance, in lecture format through videos, and then the same concepts are revisited through the reading and then reinforced sometimes through additional video content. So there's different ways of digesting and absorbing the information that is very, very helpful in case, it doesn't get absorbed 100% the first time, which is not, normally the way people learn. So that's just a little bit of how I approach the weekly to-dos.
Thank you, Kathy. Liz, please.
Thank you. So, as a physical therapist who worked across 5 different school campuses and in our outpatient center, I travel a lot. So a lot of my time is spent in the car listening to our lectures. I try, Dr. Diamond, you'd be surprised how much time I have listened to you while driving at 1.25 or 1.5 speed, which is really nice. But in doing that, I find that I need to reinforce it. So I generally end up listening to the lectures more than once so that I can take notes on the things that I think will probably come up later and apply to the readings. My goal is generally to get through the lectures by Wednesday of that week. But like BG, like anything can happen. Sometimes I'm really not even, I shouldn't say this in front of Dr. Diamond, but I'm not even opening up the module until Friday. I don't get home from work until some nights 8 o'clock, sometimes even later. And I think the most important thing for me is to be flexible and give myself a little bit of grace when it comes to feeling the pressure of the work and making sure that I'm not too hard on myself if it gets to that point where I haven't done as much as I would like to by the end of the week. The other thing that I would say is that the professors are incredibly flexible. If you find that by the end of the week, you're just not going to be able to get your assignments in by the due date, as long as you're communicating with them about that, they're very flexible about it. And they really give you a lot of space to tend to your professional needs so that nothing is really impacted. So that I couldn't have done this program without that flexibility. And I'm really grateful for that. I also agree about Hypothesis and the readings. I think it's very helpful to have that format where we can also discuss between classmates And I will also say the other thing that's incredibly helpful is to form our groups. So BG and I are, we support each other with one other member of the cohort. And that has been an incredible source of comfort and a good way to reiterate some of the stress to somebody else instead of holding that internally. And it's to work with like-minded people under the same sort of stressful conditions at times, or just the general conditions, is very helpful to have in a cohort.
Thank you, Liz.
And don't hold
And
that
Hannah,
against me that sometimes I don't get until Friday.
I promise I don't.
Doesn't happen always, but it does happen.
Thanks, Liz. Hannah, please.
A lot of what has been shared are strategies that I use as well. I think the one difference is that rather than using OneNote, the school that I work for uses Google Workspace. So all of my notes tend to go either into a Google document, or I have a checklist at the beginning of the week. And each day I do try to spend 2 to 3 hours on assignments. If I do have the privilege of working from home on Monday through Wednesday, so I do try to do the majority of the work on those days. But it really does depend on your schedule. You have to think about what work requires from you, what your work responsibilities are, what your home life is like, which at the moment is my son knocking on the door. But I did find during the first semester, I was overwhelming myself with spending too much time on each assignment. And I had to really step back and think about, okay, what is possible in a day? And how much time should I be committing to school, to work, and to my family? And I did find at the very beginning of the first semester that I was spending so much time on the work that I was not spending enough time with my son and my husband. And so I had to rethink. My husband and I had a conversation in which he said, okay, this is not sustainable. We need to rethink how to make this work. And what I have ended up changing a lot is when I complete the work. I either try to do it, I have started waking up earlier in the mornings to try and get some work done before I bring my son to school. And then if I don't accomplish what I feel I need to during the day, I stay up later in the evenings once he's gone to bed. So before you begin the program, really think about what your priorities are and how much time you want to commit each day to working, or each week to working on your responsibilities for the program. And I found that also have conversations with your family. If you're married, if you have kids, talk to them and figure out what's the best way to approach this as a team, because you are a team with and also with your colleagues at work, figuring out with your boss, I have these new responsibilities. When can I commit to spending some time on them? And like I said, I have the privilege of working from home 3 days a week. So I do get to decide my schedule those 3 days, how much time I spend.
Thank you, Hannah. And thank you, everyone. I think it's incredibly valuable for prospective students to hear what you just shared. And I think I would, as you've already, all of you have elevated this, but 2 things in particular that I've heard a lot. So self-regulation, one, right? Really the ability, having a skill set and having a set of dispositions to scheduling yourself out, to scheduling your workout, to looking all the way across the week, all the way across a module, and working backwards from there, right? We just know in true in education, whether it's online or face-to-face, the more self-regulated you are, the more you are typically able to persist over time in an academic program. And then the other piece that I heard very clearly is the idea of support systems and support networks, right? So, and multiple networks, right? So at home, your families, your colleagues, your peers in the program, right? So the more you are in communication with others, and this is especially true in online learning, right, where we know there can be challenges with feeling removed sometimes. If you're not going to a physical location the same time, the same day, every week, it can be challenging for some students. And so having those kinds of support systems, this we just know empirically, right? But certainly here in the School of Education, we know this to be true as well, because we do as much work as we can on it, right? For master's degree students and doctoral students, it's incredibly important to be thinking about these things now. And the school can help, right? The school is here. We have academic advising, we have student services to help you expand your networks, to help you deepen certain skills that come under the self-regulation heading. So it's great to hear that from all of you. I really appreciate it. So we have a whole big list of questions. There's no way we're ever going to get through them. And I don't know if you're looking at the same list I am, but there's one I want to get to. So hopefully this doesn't throw anybody. And then we can come back to some of these other questions, right? But what I would really like to hear about, and more importantly, what I think prospective students would like to hear about, in addition to what you just shared, could you talk a little bit about the relationship between the learning that you're doing here right now and your job, your work, and either your current work or where you see yourself heading, right? Your trajectory may remain the same. You might imagine yourselves moving on a different trajectory, but I wonder if you could talk, via one or two concrete examples, if you can, about the relationship between what you're doing in classes, what you're learning, what you're doing in your assignments and activities, and whether and how those are connecting to your current professional experience, because that's something that a lot of people will have on their minds. So we'll go in the same order. Charlie, do you want to take that first?
Sure. So to answer the first question on how this relates to what I'm doing right now, I don't think I mentioned or it was mentioned in the bio that currently I work at Johns Hopkins University as a senior instructional technologist, and my current job is supporting faculty in all of their ed tech and Canvas needs. So I'm in Canvas all day long. So one way my course curriculum has helped me already is it's helped me sort of play catch up in terms of learning theories. And one of the things that I'm working on is we're building modules for instructors, and we do a lot of training, and it's helping fill the gaps in the theories and the different foundations and things like that, because we put those things into our curriculum. So it's filling in the gaps for me that way. The second way is that some of the things we're learning now I can see will help me in the future. And that's in terms of right now, I'm in a critical perspectives course in ed tech. My whole job is ed tech right now. And one of the things that we do in my job is we need to determine what tools are, how they're working, how effective they are, whether we're going to recommend them, whether we're going to incorporate them in Canvas and bring them onto our school. So moving forward the future, it's given me a lot to think about in terms of how to better analyze ed tech. And I think in the future, it's going to really help me be a better consultant and be able to look at technology in a different way that I can better consult faculty and help my team make decisions. So those two things I think are very helpful.
Great. Thank you, Charlie. BG, please.
So as you probably might already recognize, I kind of reflect on every aspect. So for me, when I first started this course and thinking about what I was learning, what really pulled me was about the theories of learning, how people learn. And so in the field of autism, we work with caregivers, we work with autistic individuals, and it really helped me to think about how I was delivering my intervention and whether I was giving too much information. How can I break it down? How can I give it in multiple modalities to support the the processing of the information that I was giving. So that's one way that I really looked at my materials, and I offer a lot of services via telehealth. So there's a lot of like looking at the technology and how you're presenting the information and how often can you keep them engaged while you're doing it. So that's one way that this is definitely has helped. The second part is we are a research and training institute. We have tons and tons of trainees who come to us, and a lot of that involves us coaching, knowing and understanding your learners and how you design that instruction for them is a huge part of knowing what we're learning in this course and how we can apply. So we had a group assignment, I think in our first semester, which was look at a technological tool or a course that was done and find what are some of the areas that you see how you can improve it. And the three of us were part of Kennedy Krieger Institute, and we all went through these annual competencies that we had to do. And we were like, oh, the content is presented like this, and there's a lot of information that we have to take, and nobody really applies this concept. So I used that group assignment for my current course, which is in applications and learning design, to see how I can give that same information to my staff at Odenton in knowing how to respond to emergencies and code policies, which are kind of like mandated and dry, but how can I make it engaging by learning some of those theories and some of the design tools for it? So that's the second part about the staffing and my administrative role. And then the third part is, I think what has been really helpful for me as a clinician is looking at how we can use the information I'm getting from this course to design some of the training modules that we have as part of our Canvas training courses for people beyond CASI, beyond our institute and outside in Maryland as well as internationally. So those are the three areas that I see myself as growing in my field clinically as well as administratively, and then taking it even further in terms of like what I can contribute to the Institute's initiatives as well.
Thank you, Dr. Phillip. I can't remember who was next, Liz or Kathy. So, or I should say Dr. Wolberg. So why don't we go with you?
Okay, so when I started out in the program, my initial interest was just because I work in special education, and because I'm the manager of the physical therapy department, and because I work in our outpatient infant neurodevelopment center, I'm constantly doing trainings, or I'm also in the classroom watching teachers teach. And I was very interested in just learning design and universal design and what we were doing in the school programs to make sure that we were, I'm sorry, my cat's about to jump on the computer. What we were doing to make sure that we were inclusive for all different types of learners. With that, I am also very interested in generative AI. That's been an interest of mine basically since it was launched in late 2022. And things have sort of taken a turn, and somehow I've become the generative AI expert in our school programs. And so for one of our classes, well, actually for both of our classes this semester, I'm looking at generative AI and looking at it from a critical lens, as well as building a course through Canvas on how to use generative AI. And so things are sort of maybe pulling me in a particular direction that I wasn't expecting, which is very cool. But at the same time, I have to rethink like my 1 year plan versus my 10-year plan. And I think that I'll use this information to look at our programs in general and how we're teaching, because I think we know that schools are generally behind in terms of the technology and the use of educational technology. And we want to make sure that we're providing the most up-to-date sources and use of these ed techs so that our students can learn in the best environment that we can provide. So it's sort of two different angles that I'm taking at the moment. I'm not sure where I'm going to go with it, but it's opened my eyes to things that as a clinical person I never would have thought about. I've never really thought about how people learn or the best way for people to learn. And I'm thinking about that now wherever I go. So it's really, it's a whole new language. It's like if you would put me in an engineering program, I'd probably feel the same way. But it's all applicable pretty much to everything that I'm doing every day.
Thank you very much, Liz. That's great. Kathy, please.
So for my role, I think this program was of a special interest just because, as a founder of a makerspace and nonprofit informal learning hub, so much of the interactions that we have with learners of all ages is around engagement and is around having those memorable experiences with STEM and STEAM. And we've been very successful in that regard. But I think over time, I really, not only me, but my board as well, started to recognize the need of, really building a next tier for engagement that wasn't just this sort of one-off fun maker, experience or, a museum experience type interaction and experience. Also, my organization has increasingly over the past 5 years or so been tasked with a lot of the digital transformation and digital skilling initiatives and programs in the West Texas region. So I think this naturally just started to plant the seed of how can we, we teach all this content around how to use emerging technology and cutting edge technology. But the ways in which we teach, we're still stuck in this very analog and very one-on-one way, which is important, right? This like high touch type of learning environment that is so important for that initial engagement. But we knew that we had to leverage technology differently in order to really scale. And so the scalability of this experience is something that I came into the program with the goal of just, teasing out a framework a little bit more of how we can do that as an organization and also not lose the value of what we created, right? The immense value of these highly personal experiences that we have with learners. So to me, I feel like one of the strengths of this program is that every assignment, every project, every, paper or piece of research that I read all sort of contributed to answering this bigger question for me. And nothing I did felt like it was just box checking so far. It all felt incredibly, I was able to read through and think through everything through the lens of my own work and what I set out to, hopefully find answers to in enrolling in this master's program. And I think that sort of framing is really helpful to working professionals where I think in this day and age, in order to be successful, we truly do have to, sort of live and eat and breathe the work that we do. And that's, of course, especially true for someone who is a founder and who is, an executive director, is that this is a constant, thing that is in my life. And it's great to be able to carry that over, and allow myself, I told, Professor Diamond this in one of our previous conversations that I really felt this program almost gave myself permission to explore some of the things that I've always wanted to explore, but never really could justify the time to do so until I was, formally in a program. And then I can say that, okay, well, this is part of the coursework. So, I'm justified in spending like hours just reading on a subject that I've always been curious about, right? That's related to the work that I do. So yeah, I can't, it's been immensely related, very closely collated with actual projects that I'm looking to launch in the next couple of years.
Amazing. Thank you, Kathy. And Hannah, please.
Yeah, so the whole reason that I joined this program was because of my new position at the legacy school. Like my profile said, I have been working there. This is my fourth year working there, but my first year as the lower school curriculum designer. And it's a brand new position for our school. In the past, the work was for the curriculum was divided amongst teachers and primarily fell on the shoulders of our supervisor, who is responsible for all of the faculty in the school. And she would often not have enough time to complete the curriculum. And there was some work from previous years that was already present. And so some of that work we could review and add to. But I was finding during my time teaching that there were a lot of missing pieces, and no one had enough time to really prioritize that work, to prioritize looking at literature texts and figuring out how are we going to design this in a way that is most appropriate to present to students with dyslexia, because we're not just teaching we're teaching a very unique demographic of students. And that question was always in the back of my head: is the way that we're designing this or presenting this the most appropriate for the student demographic? And so when the head of school and I agreed on this position and I started, I knew that I wanted to do more than just working on finding resources by myself. I knew that I needed training to better identify resources that are most productive and most effective for teaching students with dyslexia. And I knew, because the responsibility of designing that work is the whole that is my job, is to figure out how to design this work and implement it in the classroom. And particularly this year, I've been focusing on our literature and science. And something that I have found in the literature curriculum is that there are so many great educational or technological resources that could be used to support comprehension skills, vocabulary skills, but there's little research into those about whether they are effective for students with special needs, and particularly students with dyslexia. And so in our research course last year, I had looked into some different programs for educational technology for vocabulary, and found it really interesting to look at, what type of research has been conducted on this educational technology, and is there anything in there that has focused on the needs of students with dyslexia or other special needs. So I have found that this program is especially helpful for orienting me, helping me ask the right questions. That's really that I am able now to look at a program that exists, an educational technology that exists, and approach it critically and look at the research and know how to evaluate whether or not the research is doing what it should be doing, is asking the right questions and being conducted appropriately. And I am now in the learning experience design course getting to ask questions about how should this new curriculum be designed and how should it be presented to the teachers? Because I'm also finding, I'm presenting this and the teachers are saying that it's helpful and that it's making sense, but I'm also I know that there is more we can do to support the teachers. And in the learning experience design course, I'm having the opportunity to develop a training for the teachers about one of the programs that we have just this year implemented in the school. And I that I'm really excited about that and the opportunity to kind of move into this new leadership role and be able to support not just the students, but the teachers as well, and really question and think critically about my own work and the educational technologies that currently exist, and what new technologies can be created to support the needs of neurodivergent students.
Hannah, thank you. So I quickly want to recap because there was so much that we just heard that I want to surface. Amazing. And then, Eliel, I'm going to ask you, we probably need to get to Q&A, but a couple of things that I hope you're hearing and that I'd like to point out. So an emphasis on leadership, an emphasis on preparing our students who are almost to a person practitioners, some of whom, in fact, many of whom are currently in leadership positions, but that we want to prepare to continue along their leadership projection, right, in their fields. And I hear a lot of that here. I hear a lot of people who are thinking as leaders and who are thinking about what their next steps are. A couple of other things. The curriculum is designed with great intent, we hope, on helping our students to connect their professional lives to what they're doing in their graduate work, right? This is essential. I think it was Kathy who pointed it out, that we are really living in an era in which there's just not a lot of time for separations between what goes on in the academy and what goes on in the workplace and graduate education. And we are very, very deliberate about that. There's a solid foundation of the learning sciences here. I heard a number of our students talk about applying learning theories, and there's a very strong emphasis on that, starting with a foundation in the learning sciences. But I also heard our panelists talking in terms of what I think of as socio-technical judgment, right? So not just hard skills, not just developing specific interventions, but also developing dispositions toward judgment, right? Very knowledgeable judgment, wisdom about what it means to use technologies and tools within specific social contexts, right? And not to pretend that we just drop tools in from out of space and they'll do exactly as we intend for them to do, and that every human being in that place will do exactly as we intend for them to do. That's not what happens. And there is a big, big emphasis in this program on helping our students as leaders, as practitioners, to develop those judgment skills. It's critical, right? People who are graduates of this program and others like it will now go out into the world and have great responsibility over the use of these tools and technologies. And so it is essential, in my mind anyway, as somebody who's responsible for the curriculum, to develop these hard skills, but to develop these soft skills as well, right? So I heard all of these things. I hope you're hearing them. Eliel, I'm assuming we need to go to Q&A, right? There's many, many things I would like to ask, but we don't have a lot of time left. Is that right?
No, I mean, yeah, this has been great. And thanks to the panelists who provided a lot of really great in-depth insight on your career objectives and how you've handled this program. And I think our prospective students have really appreciated
Eliel, can I
that
just
as
ask
a,
one more
yep.
question of you? Sorry. Not to put any of our panelists on the spot, but I'm hoping that if there are students, prospective students, who might want an opportunity to ask one of you or more than one of you another question, you'd be willing to have an email exchange potentially, or have a conversation. Again, I'm not going to put anybody on the spot at the moment. Everybody's very busy. But hopefully that will be a possibility. So sorry, Eliel.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're good. So we did have one question come in here, and it's basically just asking a question about what kind of laptop or tech is needed for this program.
Panelists, do you want to answer that question?
I
I
would say,
actually,
go ahead.
okay. I actually purchased a Mac with the education discount at the very beginning of the course, and I found that especially helpful because we use programs like Canva, and I was able to download the app directly onto my computer. Um, and so I have found a Mac computer to be especially helpful, but I also have a work computer that is not a Mac, and I can do my work on that as well. So I think it also depends on how comfortable you feel with certain programs and software compared to others.
I did the
Or something
same
to,
thing.
go
I
ahead,
bought a
Liz, go ahead.
MacBook. It was more of a workaround in the beginning because Kennedy Krieger was limiting some of the things that we could do, and I was like, "Oh, just go out and buy a MacBook." But Hannah, like you, I found that it's a little bit easier to do some of the stuff that we're doing on the MacBook versus the work computer, but generally it can be done on it. The whole program can be done on any computer, whether it's Mac or otherwise.
I've done it on the work computer. I've worked with our IS department to make sure that things are available for me. So, and also as part of our Kennedy Krieger program, we do have 4 hours of our work week that we can contribute towards the coursework. And so it was important for me to use my work computer to be able to do that. So um, I think there are a couple of options, and you can have some troubleshooting as well.
Well, something I want to add very quickly. To me, there's another part to this question that I may be inferring, but feedback we had from a number of students in this cohort in the first semester was that we were making assumptions about certain levels of comfort. Not so much hardware, but applications, right? Software applications that really, and when I say we, me, I was making a lot of assumptions about just previous experience with different software, right? And so what we are working on and have been working on as a result, we are essentially setting up something like a tech landing page in the community site that will have links to demo videos, right? That will have where they exist things like boot camps for certain applications. Boot camp is, at least in this specific case, we're not talking about something like coding boot camps, although for those of you who go into the AI leadership specialization, that is something we would be talking about. So if, as another part of that question in terms of tech, right, so there's the hardware, what do you need to actually do this work? But there's also maybe broadly what we would think of as the kind of literacy component of this, well, right, and comfort and experience with those with certain applications that I believe we will be in a much better position starting fall of this year that our students can make use of and dive in pretty quickly. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah. And just to end it here, we did have one final question. Um, is there any expectation for students to have a coding background? And Jim, you might be probably better positioned. I know you just spoke a little bit about some of the new options.
Right.
But yeah,
The quick answer is no, with one except. Well, no. The answer is no. However, those of you who will go down the AI leadership specialization path will be required to take a Python coding boot camp before you take your second specialization course. And I'm happy to talk more about that. That boot camp assumes absolutely no previous experience with coding. It assumes absolutely no previous analytical skills or any degree of math competency. So it has really been set up for people coming from all backgrounds. But it would be required of you before you take the applied generative AI course in the Whiting School.
yeah. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Diamond. I do want to be respectful of our panelists and their time and their commitment. And again, thank you all, the five of you, for giving us some of your time for your busy schedules between school and work and personal life. I think this has been really insightful for our students. For everyone who's joining or has joined us for this webinar, we will be sending this recording out. It'll also probably be on our YouTube page. I know there were probably some questions here that we didn't really get to. If you do want to reach out to admissions, we can have a one-on-one, and if current students are open to it, I'm more than happy to facilitate some connections with our panelists or other students in the program. But with that said, I'll go ahead and close it out. Jim, do you want to say any parting words?
No, I just want to thank these amazing panelists. Thank you so much for giving your time. It's incredibly valuable, and I'm very grateful, and I'm sure everybody else is as well. So thank you.